Hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of Heartland Huddle. I'm your new host for today, Kyler Elliott, and we are back checking on some of the highly anticipated games for high school football. Coming up, we are looking at the Sunflower League again, some Western Kansas teams, and a little preview of the playoffs, which are right around the corner. All this now on Heartland Huddle. A good old-fashioned, long-standing rivalry game took place last Friday, and it definitely got wild. Olathe West took on Olathe Northwest to see who would take home the Sunflower League Champion Trophy. Xander is taking us to this matchup soon, and then another rivalry right here in Lawrence as the two home teams, Lawrence Free State and Lawrence High, battled it out. Finally, there just wasn't room for two Souths in the eastern Kansas region. Olathe South played Shawnee Mission South, and only one could win. Logan will be covering that. But first, let's head to you, Xander, to reveal who won the Sunflower League.
Thanks, Kyler. Well, the Olathe West Owls versus the Olathe Northwest Ravens was this week's game of the week, and it absolutely delivered on all fronts. The rivalry game was a back-and-forth affair in frigid and rainy weather, but in the end, it was the Owls who pulled out the victory by a score of 38-27. This win clinched the Owls' first ever Sunflower League championship, a landmark victory for a program that is having a historic season, and it took some big-time performances to get them there. The scoring for the Owls started on the opening drive when senior running back Josh Follin punched in an early rushing touchdown, and it was followed up with Cash Warren running in the two-point conversion to make it 8-0. After that score from Follin, the Owl offense became all Sam Kriskowski. The senior receiver came wide open near the end of the first quarter on a 68-yard receiving touchdown. And one drive later, he made magic with his legs when he took this screen pass 27 yards to the house to put the Owls back up 2 scores. Kriskowski would score another long touchdown on the Owls' first offensive play of the second half, this time on a 62-yard reception to push the Owls' lead up to 29-20. Josh Follin would score the Owls' final offensive touchdown late in the third quarter on a 23-yard rush to give them a lead that the Ravens couldn't survive. Follin finished the night with 149 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on just 17 carries, and Kriskowski finished with 5 catches for 199 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. After the game, we caught up with Kriskowski to talk about the game.
All right, well, Sam, first off, big congratulations on the game tonight. You had an amazing night. How do you feel about your performance?
I felt good. You know, I know Brody Hill's going to get me the ball, put good balls on me, and I just got to come down with the catch, and I did that.
This is a big rivalry for you guys. Obviously, everybody is so hyped up. You guys are Sunflower League champions. What does this mean for this program?
It's huge. Our first Sunflower League championship, if I am correct there, and we've beaten a lot of schools. We've beaten a lot of schools this year that in the past we've never beaten. So it just feels good to own the league, basically.
All right, 7-1, 5 straight wins. What's the ceiling for this team?
State championship, baby. We know we can make it, but we got to take it week by week, and that's what we're going to do.
Well, we have to give credit to Olathe Northwest as well, because they did not go down without a fight. They kept the game close, in large part thanks to senior running back and edge rusher Bryce Randall, who scored 3 rushing touchdowns for the Ravens, twice from 2 yards out and once from 8 yards. Junior quarterback Brody Comfort scored the Ravens' other touchdown on a 10-yard scramble that gave them a chance to tie the game in the third quarter, but they couldn't convert on their 2-point attempt. After a late 47-yard field goal for the Owls, which was also a school record, the Ravens would turn it over on downs the following drive, and Olathe West ran the clock out. We caught up with the Owls head coach, John Weimers, to talk about his team's performance.
Now I got to ask about your guys' defensive play. They had 3 pretty strong rushers, 2 running backs and a quarterback who could scramble. How did you guys game plan against that? What was effective for you guys?
A lot of it was just playing great situations. You know, we knew you're going to bend against them a lot. You just can't break in some moments that you really need to bear down and play good defense. So our coaches put together a great plan on defense, and it's just they're really good running the football, and we just had to do it when it counted.
All right, last question, I'll let you get out of here. There were 2 drops on potential touchdowns towards the end of that game, but then your kicker comes in, makes a 47-yarder, a school record like 1-0. What's it like to have a kicker who can kick from that range at this level?
Well, I've always known of Dylan, like he's got a big leg. You know, he's worked really, really hard for this moment. And, you know, I've seen Dylan kick 55-yarders in practice. And I just said, Dylan, do you think you can make this? And he's like, yeah, I think so. And I was like, well, I know you can make it. And he went out and drilled it. So I'm super happy for him. That was a big moment.
Well, congratulations to Sunflower League champions Olathe West. Now, let's head over to Nick to cover Lawrence Free State versus Lawrence High.
What started out as another soggy Friday night in Lawrence quickly turned into one that students won't forget. Tensions ran high, but the soaked crowds were still on fire leading into the 29th year of the historical city showdown. The Lawrence High School Lions, going into this game at 0-7 on the season, taking on the number 2 ranked Free State Firebirds. Very quickly though, it was apparent that the Lions were the dominant team, holding Free State to 24 unanswered points in the first half. Key players like quarterback number 15, Joey Dooley, with 2 touchdowns and a near career high 114 rushing yards, number 2, Jackson Becker with a 19-yard receiving touchdown, and number 3, Ethan Curry with 99 rushing yards looked unstoppable. In the third quarter, Free State finally answered with a touchdown and missed field goal, leading into a back-and-forth game of turnovers, stops, and punts until the game was over, finishing with a strong 24-6 win for the Lions. With playoffs next week, take a listen into Coach Thorin's thoughts going into the game against Shawnee Mission Northwest.
It's about being steady and it's about pushing forward, and you know, our guys have done that. Our guys have worked so hard this year, and they haven't been rewarded for it. But you know what? They showed up every day. They show up every Saturday morning, and it's a players' game, and I'm just very proud of them right now.
Thanks, Nick. Last Thursday, Olathe South hosted Shawnee Mission South on their senior night. Both teams entered 3-4 with 3-4 records, but Olathe South came out on top in the end. Shawnee Mission South got on the board first when Marquand Washington punched in a touchdown combined with a good kick from Adam Olson, giving the Raiders a 7-0 lead. Olathe South responded with a field goal by Seth Prefer, cutting the deficit to 7-3. Dax Grissom recovered a fumble and sprinted to the end zone, putting Olathe South ahead 10-7 by the end of the first quarter. In the second quarter, Marquand Washington scored again for Shawnee Mission South, but Olathe South's Gage Lee plowed through the pile for a touchdown, giving the Eagles a 17-14 halftime lead. Olathe South dominated after halftime. Gage Lee ran in 2 more touchdowns in the third and fourth quarters, and the Eagles' defense sacked Shawnee Mission South's quarterback and forced multiple turnovers to maintain control of the game. Late in the fourth, Gage powered through in the end zone for another touchdown to make it 38-14, and Shawnee Mission South managed a late touchdown to bring the final score to 38-21. With the win, Olathe South improves to 4-4 overall and 4-3 in district play, showing a strong second half performance. I sat down with senior quarterback Gage Lee on his senior night to hear his thoughts on the game.
Yeah, so they brought a lot of pressure, and then we started just going outside and just getting our quick routes and just doing our simple stuff instead of making it too complicated. The mindset in second half was just run the football, just pound it down them, and just finish. We always talk about finishing and just playing hard. Hey, this win is just great for us. Gives us a lot of boost going into the playoffs and hopefully get us a higher seed, and we're ready to play all 13 weeks, so just keep going from here.
That's all I have for the 6A showdown between Shawnee Mission South and Olathe South. Now to Kyler after the break.
The Wild West has been showing up with some great football matchups as well. So Trevor is headed to Western Kansas to update on how their seasons are going. But first, Jacob has a special team feature, so let's head to him right now.
We cover a lot of teams here in the Sunflower State, schools like Mill Valley and Gardner, all the way out to Manhattan and Mays, but very few do we cover some of the smaller schools. So today we'll be looking at a very special team located in Lenexa, Kansas, Christ Prep Academy. And I had the opportunity to sit down with head coach Tom Hurley to talk more about the program. He told me CPA is a 3-day college prep school that allows homeschoolers across Kansas City to participate in their athletic programs. But more importantly, we asked him what makes this program so special.
When you talk about building godly men for the next generation, it takes investment. It takes discipleship. It takes time. The biggest part of discipleship is spending time with somebody. And so looking for an opportunity where you can pour yourself into and be a role model for. Because there's a lot of young men on our program that even though a lot come from homeschool backgrounds with two parents, a lot don't. There's a lot that don't have a dad in the home, and that was very influential for me when I was younger. And so you say, when we don't get paid to do this, but the payoff is when we see these guys graduate and move on and become successful in life, and it's really exciting this year. So we have our first former player has a player in junior high now. So we've kind of coming full circle now, and it's really exciting to see these guys that were a part of the program being faithful dads and bringing their kids back to be a part of the program.
Aside from coaches, current and former players have taken a lot from this program, whether they continue to play college football or join the workforce.
This program has meant so much to me over the years. It's really given me a good brotherhood to bond. I've had guys next to me who have pushed me every day in the gym, early morning workouts, on the field, off the field. I mean, the coaches have fed into me so much as a player. They've really been mentors to me. They've taught me up how to be a self-disciplined person and persevere. And then teammates, you got Timothy, Justice, they're always out there pushing you too.
As someone who was a part of this program for 6 years, I can definitely say that this program has turned me into the person I am today. And enough on the eastern side of the state. Let's send it over to Trevor to hear what's happening out west.
Thanks for that up-close and personal look at Christ Prep Academy, Jacob. I'm going to pull things back to a much broader perspective across the classes of Western Kansas to run down some of the high-profile action that unfolded last Friday night. To start, the Manhattan Tribe are healthy once again, and Coach Shards gave credit to that and his secondary being put back together to help them roll into Topeka and beat Washburn Rural 43-0. The offensive strategy to let Finn Watson get his legs under him would work like a charm, as he'd run for 135 yards and a pair of touchdowns, and Manhattan's pleased with the return of 4-star receiver J.J. Dunnigan, who got a 78-yard house call to start the game. Manhattan would never look back and would have a Halloween matchup this Friday against Garden City to open their playoffs. Moving down I-70 to mile marker 238 and Tesket, the Trojans took on the visiting Cunningham Wildcats in a battle for the District 2 six-man championship. With the dreary weather amiss, both teams would stick to the ground game, but it'd be the Wildcats that would take advantage of miscues and a turnover to lead them to the district title with a 58-12 final score and top seed in their six-man bracket. In 2A, the Ellsworth Bearcats traveled to southeast of Saline, who's finishing off the hardest part of their schedule in the last 3 weeks, and yet still outscored those opponents, including Ellsworth, 160-42. The Bears would shut down Bearcats senior running back Tucker Goss, who is averaging over 200 yards a game entering the contest, and hold him to 25 yards on 21 attempts. Saline would rush for 362, with Grady Gebhardt accounting for 234 and 4 touchdowns on the way to Southeast Saline's 53-12 win. This finishes the Trojans' undefeated season as they take the top seed in the West and knock Ellsworth down to a 10 slot. A little farther west saw the El Saline Cardinals taking on the Central Plains Oilers, with the Oilers fighting to stay in a top 3 spot in 8-man Division I, and the Cardinals hoping to finish their district play undefeated. Both teams would combine for 442 rushing yards, but Central Plains' 2 interceptions would be a key deciding factor, as the Cardinals' passing game had minimal interruptions, and they'd complete their 7-1 season with a 36-6 win. An extended road trip put the Hayes Indians against the Liberal Redskins, as they hoped to bounce back from their home loss last week against Great Bend. Holden Lind would lead the Indians with 310 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns on their way to the 49-28 win. Lind is now stacked up 866 yards and 8 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks, which gives reason to believe that Hayes has bolstered their confidence as both teams move into 5A bracket play at 6-2. The last stop took us to a matchup of undefeateds where the Jackson Heights Cobras hosted the Jefferson County North Chargers, both of them ranked at the top 5 of 1A. It was another district championship on the line Friday night. This match would be settled without a doubt as the Cobras' ground-pound offense steamrolled them to a 53-0 victory, moving them into bracket at 8-0 and a 1 seed with their eyes on the state title. That's all I have time for out west on the Western Front, but there's plenty more great matchups we'll get to see in the playoffs that we'll tell you all about in our roundtable after this short break.
Playoffs will be beginning soon, and teams are working extra hard to try to earn their spot in the state championship. I'm sure many have thought their thoughts on who might just make it, and so do Landon and Grady, so they are heading to the roundtable to brief you their thoughts on the upcoming playoffs. And then, as always, we have our top 5 plays of the week. We'll see which plays made it in this week soon, but first, let's go to the roundtable.
Thanks, Kyler. My name is Grady Johnson. I'm joined alongside Landon Jones, and we're going to look at some of our teams to look out for in both 6A and 5A, as well as a first-round matchup we both like. So let's get into it. Landon, who do you like on the 6A side?
You know, to be honest with you, Grady, I really like the Olathe West Owls. I mean, they are just a complete team. I had the chance to cover them earlier this year, and man, do I tell you, they just have some explosive power, both sides of the ball. You see their offense will go make big plays, as well as also have drives that will just gas the defense. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they have a tough secondary, a tough pass rush, just all around great players that will make plays, and I think that they can go very far into the 6A bracket.
I'm going to go to the west side and look at the 1 seed, the Mays Eagles. They've got the number 1 offense in 6A, averaging 50 points per game, led by quarterback Braden Maiovella. And they've got the number 2 defense, averaging just under 14 points per game. It's a battle-tested Mays team. They're 8-0. They can take a run all the way to the state championship game. Landon, who do you like on the 5A side?
I like the Mill Valley Jaguars here, Grady, as again, I've also had the chance to cover them. And man, do I tell you, they are also just a tough team. You've got offensive firepower with quarterback Blake Jay. You also got a stud running back, Max Piva, that might be the most underrated running back in Kansas. He just can run over anyone, and he's pretty hard to stop. And as well as Blake Jay's running ability and passing ability, it's a tough offense to go against. And also their defense is pretty good too. I mean, it's pretty rare if you watch a game and don't see a couple turnovers forced by that defense, and that helps set up that amazing offense like I described in just great field position, and I think that they can make it very far in 5A.
I'm going to look at a team that they may see in the second round, the defending state champion, St. Thomas Aquinas Saints. They've got one of the better offenses in 5A, averaging 36.5 points per game to pair with a really good defense. But that offense, man, they wear people down with that heavy rush attack, and they like to get after guys at the line of scrimmage. Now, Landon, what's your favorite matchup from 6A in the first round?
Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, Grady. I like Shawnee Mission East versus Blue Valley West. You know, Shawnee Mission East, I've covered them a few times. They've had some rough games, but I do think that they could still put up pretty good performance. But to be honest with you, I really like Blue Valley West in this upset here. Blue Valley West, their record is 2-6, but I don't believe that tells their story for their season. I think they are a tough team, both sides of the ball. They're going to fight, and they're going to make it a really tough game here for Shawnee Mission East.
I agree with you. That Blue Valley West defense is the best on the 6A East bracket. Now to 5A, I really like the St. James Academy and Shawnee Heights matchup in the 6-11 seed. Shawnee Heights has one of the better offenses in 5A with 38.4 points per game, led by quarterback Aiden Scott and wide receiver Tyron Parker, a KU commit, against a really, really talented St. James Academy team who does not give up a lot of points. I think it could go either way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's it for Grady and I this week. We are going to send it over to Jude for our top 5 plays of the week next. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome back to Heartland Huddle Top Plays. I'm Jude Gussie, and let's go look at 5 of the best plays from the final week of the regular season. At number 5, Sunflower League Championship, Olathe Northwest with the ball on the goal line, and there's a problem with the snap as Olathe West falls on it for a huge stop and takeaway in the close game. Number 4, Blue Valley Sogard perfectly places the ball for Jacob Lockett, who holds on through contact for the big catch and score. What an impressive play and catch. In the number 3 spot, Olathe South's Terrence Belcher strip sacks the quarterback, and Dax Grissom scoops and goes 63 yards for the big-time defensive touchdown. Number 2, take a look at this. Olathe West's Dylan Wyman lines up for a 47-yard field goal and drills it. This is just something you don't see very often at the high school level. What an incredible kick. And at the top spot for the regular season finale, Taft Stuvey of Blue Valley has saved some of the best for last. Taft goes vertical on the scramble drill and makes this improbable sideline back shoulder one-hand grab for the first down. The body control here is insane. To be able to turn and secure the ball with one hand while staying in bounds makes this one of the most impressive catches I've seen all season. Best of luck to everyone participating in the state playoffs, and make sure to share your best plays with us on Instagram or X.
Well, that concludes this week's episode. Continue tuning in the following weeks for what's to come for all of these teams. As always, we are live at 6 p.m. on Mondays to update on games. After this week's rankings, for 6A in the East, Olathe West is holding their #1 spot, followed by Gardner Edgerton and then Shawnee Mission Northwest. And for 5A, St. Thomas Aquinas is still ranked #1, followed by Mill Valley and St. James Academy. We'll see if these teams keep this up and maybe find their way to the state championship or not. Keep up with us on social media and Media Crossroads on YouTube in case you miss us live. For KU Sports, check out Playmakers and Run It Back. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Heartland Huddle.